You might get a double episode bonus. Who knows? You might get a back-to-back upload day.
Hey,
That's a rarity. Should have been uploaded Saturday morning, but I kind of slacked off a little bit. So,
that's all good. I'm sure
oh,
you were busy Saturday
oh
watching
no,
your Baylor Bears win another game
I
again.
had work on Saturday too. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Good old HEB. Gotta love him.
yeah.
I've
Well,
worked.
my Saturday was going pretty well, and then at around 6:30, I had a ton of emotions, and then by almost 12 o'clock last night, I got a little got a little 2 point conversion sick from last night's Auburn A&M game. Still trying still
Still trying
kind
to
of trying
recover.
to
Still
recover
trying to
from that,
recover. Yeah. Um, I'm sorry. Um, no, no. I know there's probably no apology necessary, but hey, the Cowboys may have numbed your pain today.
You know what? I mean, I don't even know if that really makes me feel any good. Because let's just face it, that's probably gonna be the Cowboys' only win until I
It's
don't
been their
know.
last win in like a month and a half.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're probably not gonna do very much.
Oh well,
But
but lots
you
of
know
wild
what?
stuff happened.
Yeah,
Kansas is out here bounty hunting.
I was, we were just talking. They're bounty hunters, bro. They knocked off
They're
Colorado.
taking teams out. I think they beat like three ranked teams.
Yeah,
They've taken out like everybody. They're ruining. They're playing. You know,
they're playing. They're playing. They're like they kind of remind me of they're not as good as South Carolina, but they're kind of reminding me of South Carolina right now.
mm-hmm.
Just you
Very
see
much so.
similarities, you know?
They're not the belt. The Kansas is kind of upset they weren't invited to the grand dance, the grand ball. So
Yeah,
they're cutting off everybody's invitation.
yeah. Well, and considering the kind of season Kansas was having, that's a pretty that's a they've had pretty that's
It's just
three
so
big monster
sudden.
wins.
It's just so sudden. The sudden change
I
is
know.
interesting.
Is it 2007 all over again?
No one knows.
Obviously, Kansas was good then, but
Yeah, they were
um,
good then, surprisingly.
yeah.
Unless Miles was not the coach never coached at Kansas yet. He was
Mm-mm.
the
No,
coach
he
of
was
the
the
LSU
coach at
Tigers.
LSU at the time.
Yeah,
That was the
yeah,
year. That was the year they. I think that was the year LSU won the national championship with two
yeah,
losses.
yeah. Cool little fact for some of the kids out there. Les Miles did coach for Kansas for like three
Yeah,
years.
yeah. Well, Shador Sanders. I mean, he didn't have a bad day. He was 23 for 29. He threw for 256 yards, three touchdowns, no turnovers.
Mm.
Um, and then Travis Hunter had two touchdowns, eight receptions for 125 yards.
Oh.
Um, so pretty much, I mean, pretty much. Wait, can you hear my dad in the background?
Nah,
Oh, okay. Because I thought you could. Okay.
who knows? Who knows? Papa Glenn might have some insight.
We're gonna cut this out, aren't we?
No, no.
We're not gonna cut this out.
I might. I don't know. I can cut it out,
Oh, no.
but it adds
Um,
character.
my dad is a character. I love it
It
though.
adds spice to the podcast. Makes
Yeah,
people think about our personal lives a little bit.
he'll be our next guest. Get him the mic and he'll be all set.
Our dads will be the next the guest on the show.
Dude, we need your dad.
Dude,
We need your dad on this,
my
bro.
dad would get my channel taken down.
He
Like you
would.
should hear some of the jokes he'll be watching the game at a friend's house. You should hear some of the jokes he'll say.
Dude, oh my gosh.
He made a he made a joke about some Ozempic. He made a joke about Ozempic. About an Ozempic commercial.
Bro. Oh. Anywho, no,
No, yeah.
Shador had a pretty
Let's
good
get back
game.
to what the podcast is actually about.
again, no. I mean, Shador Sanders. I mean, he averaged around 6.5 yards rushing. Hunter obviously had a pretty good game, but
Mm-hmm.
Kansas. Well, Daniels had a touchdown. It was 14 for 21. He threw for 189 yards. Um, so it wasn't a bad day for him, and Kansas really played well. You know,
Yeah.
and
There
get
was
this,
some
get this.
controversy in the
Kansas
game.
had 520 yards of total offense.
There was some controversy in the game though.
Yeah,
With a late hit. I don't know if you saw it, but there's a late hit at the legs of Shador Sanders in the game.
yeah, hmm
Um, Very dirty hit
yeah,
by a Kansas defender.
yeah.
Almost like they were instructed to do
Dude,
it.
listen to this time of possession. So Colorado had time of possession. They had 19 minutes and 49 seconds compared to Kansas's 40-minute and 11 seconds.
Whew.
That's 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 not good. And that shocks me that Shador got three touchdowns in there too. I mean that's a huge gap of
Yeah.
time of possession.
Yeah, it's a huge gap.
I
Do
mean
you?
I mean usually I mean it wouldn't usually be a high scoring game or a blowout, but I mean when you get dominated a time of possession like that, you're probably your outcomes of winning football games are very slim.
You control the ball, you control the game.
Yeah, you control the clock too. Yeah. But yeah, Kansas had 29 first downs. Colorado had 15. Colorado was 3 for 7 on third down efficiency. Kansas was much better. They were 19 for 14. And then Kansas they were 2 for 2 on fourth downs, and um, Colorado was 0 for 2. And Kansas had 78 total plays, while Colorado had 42 plays. So
Yeah.
sounds like Colorado or Kansas rather really kind of owned them.
Yeah.
You know.
Um, you know, we'll save the A&M game for last. I know it's a very traumatic experience, but
Yeah.
um,
We can get it over with whenever you want to.
no, it's not. It's not that. You know, I was actually. I'm pulling. Like, you made me soften up for A&M a little bit. Like, you know, like
Well,
other fans have ruined A&M for me. He's like, this just one good A&M fan to soften me up just a little bit.
well, we when we do our picks this week, we know what game we're doing.
I'm rolling with the Ag. No, I'm just kidding. Not yet. You don't get a preview of my pick yet.
Yep. Hey,
But
I gotta pull a Pat McAfee, rip my shirt off, and do the whoop.
what's that coming down the track?
That big machine in red and black. Ain't nothing finer in the land.
The
There's
truck obnoxious Georgia
Georgia
fan.
fan. Go dogs. Go dogs. Go dogs. Sick 'em.
Give me the time.
Give me Alabama to break all your hearts. Bro,
So
that was
and
classic.
then
Here, let me pull it up. Hang on.
I
Hang
can
on.
pull it up. I'm gonna pull it up on YouTube real quick. We'll see
Wait,
how good we did.
wait, here it is. Here it is. Hey, what's that coming down the track? A huge machine that's red and black. Ain't nothing finer in the land than the Georgia Redcoat Marching Band. Go dogs, go dogs, go dogs, sick 'em.
Yeah, everybody loves the dogs. Um,
Are you gonna pull up the video actually?
Pat McAfee? No.
Oh, dang it.
Because we did We don't need copyright issues
Yeah, we don't we don't want to get on Pat McAfee's bad side. That wouldn't be a good.
or ESPN. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
considering that I might try to get a job there in the future.
Yeah, we don't need
Um,
any of that stuff. Anywho,
but
getting back to the main topic.
you know, let's switch to the Army and Navy game. Army, not Navy, Army and Navy. Army and Notre Dame. Excuse me. Very, very, very one-sided game.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and
Notre.
it was pretty much um, it was pretty much what we kind of uh, had predicted, kind of basically.
I said Notre Dame would win.
Yeah,
Every piece of me wanted it to be closer.
yeah. Well, and I just think Notre Dame had just I don't want to say more talent, but they had more talent. They had more. They had more. You
Yeah,
know.
the talent was overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah.
The talent discrepancy was very different.
Yeah. Well, armies though they still had a good year, so there's nothing to hang their hat about.
I
You
mean,
know.
they can still win the American.
Yeah. Yeah. They'll probably not make it into the playoffs, obviously, but they'll probably
You know,
have a chance to win their conference and then make it to a pretty good bowl game, I would think.
I've seen projections that they're going to play against Baylor. Navy's going to play against Baylor in some Armed Forces Bowl.
Well, I'm pretty sure the last time Baylor played an Army school, y'all lost in the bowl game.
Yeah, we lost to Air Force.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely not a good season for us that past year. That year.
Yeah, I think y'all went 6-7 that year.
And now I've seen some bowl projections where they have us playing A&M. Golly,
Wouldn't that be something?
in the Texas Bowl.
Wouldn't Wouldn't that be something?
Wouldn't that be something?
That'd be
Um,
funny.
it would be very funny. But um, Army Notre Dame was very one-sided. One man show by Jeremiah Love. He did
Hmm.
it all.
Right.
Riley Leonard didn't have to do a whole lot. 10 for 13, 148, and 2 touchdowns.
Right. Well, and what's just not look, just not looking at it, time of possession, Army had 39 total minutes. 39 minutes and 49
They
seconds.
dominated time of possession like
Yeah.
the, as they I said they would.
Well, and that's exactly what you said. I mean, Army. I mean, there was nothing else would they be able to do because they're not a high
Well,
flying
I
offense.
mean, in terms of looking at it from the outside, if you just didn't look at the score, Army only turned the ball over once. The
Yeah,
yard discrepancy was the huge difference. Notre Dame had 464 yards total offense,
yeah,
while Army only had 233.
yeah. Well, and Notre Dame had nearly 200 passing yards. So, while
Army's not going to pass it for 200
I was
yards
about to
usually in a
say
game.
I was about to say they only had 26 passing yards. So
They're not. They're
that's
not. They're not passing it for 200 yards in a game.
no,
Let's be real.
no. Well, that's not the system they had there. You know.
Yeah,
And,
and then 19 first downs compared to
yeah.
Army's 15. You
And
know,
then, I mean, it's still a large gap, but Notre Dame ran for 273 while Army rushed for 207. But
I think it's just a big talent gap.
yeah,
That's all I have to say.
yeah. Well, and let's see. I mean, total plays. I mean, Army ran 67. Notre Dame ran 47.
Oh
Um,
wow,
no, I
that's
know,
actually a crazy difference.
I know. Yeah, and then first downs. I mean, Notre Dame only had 5 more first downs than Army did. So even though the scoreboard looks like Army got dominated, when you look at the stats, I mean,
No, Army played their game.
yeah,
They
right,
they played their game, and they just got shut down by superior athletes. They have nothing to hang their head on.
hmm Well, I tell you what, Notre Dame is definitely, and we've been saying this, but they're definitely a playoff.
They're good. They're a decent football team.
Yeah,
They made Army and Navy look like children.
Hmm. Yeah, they're. I think they're definitely a playoff team, and I think they're pretty dangerous down the stretch. I mean that NIU loss really looks like nothing now. I mean,
Yeah. No, it had to be a fluke.
yeah, yeah,
Um, early in the season, but ASU BYU was a crazy
yeah.
one.
Well, and we both predicted ASU to take down BYU, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, that was not the prediction could not be more spot on. I thought ASU would win by 14. They won by 5.
Hmm. Well, and did you see that? Did you hear about that 13-minute delay
Oh my god, I
with
saw that.
1 second left? You saw that in person?
I mean, I didn't see it in person, but I heard it happened.
Yeah.
And then BYU got a Hail Mary attempt, obviously fell short, and then they stormed the field. Um,
Well, well, in BYU on the last play, they came close to they came pretty close to scoring, but ASU was able to get the job done on a Hail Mary. But
and ASU's really gotten hot.
they have, yeah. Well, I think in the Big 12 now, if I'm not mistaken, it's like a four-way tie.
And, it's very confusing. There's so many different scenarios that can happen next Saturday
Right.
for the Big 12 championship.
Hmm.
Baylor can get in on some very wacky scenario.
Hey, and you never know. I mean, we've seen it all year. I mean,
But as crazy as this year has been, I wouldn't doubt it in the slightest.
I was about to say, as crazy as the year has been, I wouldn't count anybody out. I mean,
Mm-mm.
oh, I mean, unless if you're Oklahoma State, but you know,
Or unless you're Mississippi State in the SEC.
or Auburn.
um,
You knew I had to throw that in there.
no. But yeah, that's definitely a lot crazier of a game than I thought it would be. I thought ASU would control it a whole lot more.
Uh-huh.
Like I said, their running back Cameron Scatterbro or Cam Scatterbro at 28 carries, 147 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
he
I'll
wa-
say this: if you thought it was going to be a defensive game, uh, just listen to this. Total yards: ASU had 401, BYU had 391. Passing yards: ASU had 247, BYU had 297. ASU dominated the rushing game with 154 yards compared to 94 yards.
I think if you control the ground, you control the game.
Yeah. Well, that's for any game. If you're able to run the football against people and they can't stop you, it's gonna be a very rough
You
day.
can throw people off when you
Right.
can run the ball.
Right. And then even when you have to pass the ball, be a balanced offense. If you have to go back to the run game because you know it can work. I mean,
And BYU's quarterback turned the ball over twice, while Arizona State's only turned the ball over once. So
yeah, yeah,
BYU lost the turnover battle as well.
yeah, yeah,
ASU won in almost every aspect except first downs.
yeah. In time of possession for both teams, ASU had 35 minutes and 5 seconds, and then BYU had 24 minutes and 55 seconds of possession. So,
Man, they're really hampering on the time of possession today.
well, I think it's important though.
It's the stat of the day.
Yeah. Well, because usually the team with, I mean, it's not a lot, it's not most of the time, but usually the team with the most time of possession with the most yards, usually, I mean, unless like if you own the time possession like we just mentioned Notre Dame and Army, I mean that's probably a guaranteed win, but
There's very few instances where that,
yeah, there's
like
very
that
few
Army game.
there's very few instances where you have time of possession in a game and you were to lose it. But it can happen.
Yeah, especially if you have a really quick strike offense,
Yeah,
like some of these schools, especially like a Oklahoma type of offense. And we'll get to that game later. Actually,
yeah,
that'll probably be our next game to cover.
yeah, yep.
And speaking of that game, what a heck of a job by that Oklahoma team. heck of a job. I mean, they're
I mean,
making Nick.
they made Alabama look silly.
I mean, maybe the Oklahoma does belong in the SEC after all.
I don't know, but I mean, I said, Alabama, you better watch out. 'Cause
Mm,
even maybe not the best team in the SEC can get you any day, and that's exactly what happened.
dude, and lots of upsets happened in the SEC.
Yeah. Well,
DJ,
Ole Miss went down. That was a big one,
yeah, DJ Lagway played great in that game.
dude. Yeah, Florida, and we'll talk about Florida here in a little bit. They're starting something, but Alabama, I would say they're out of the playoff.
For what a complete and total collapse.
I mean, for a team that, I mean, I just can't I just can't figure out they had their best game under Kalen DeBoer against Alabama, arguably. They lose to Vandy, and then they lose to Tennessee, and now they've lost to Oklahoma.
Yeah,
It's I don't know.
just I mean,
And
and
then
I
they
think
have and then they have Auburn next week in the Iron Bowl at home, which that's I mean considering what Auburn did to A&M, you know.
I think I think Kalen DeBoer should really be worried about his job.
I don't go that far, but
I mean, there is a expectation at Alabama.
well, I mean, when you have a coach that's been there for 17 years, that won basically 90% of the national championships that he coached in. You know?
But there's an expectation now, though.
Yeah, yeah,
You can't let the
always.
fans down.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
know
No,
you're not going to be Nick Saban.
no, and I don't
We
think
already
anybody.
know that.
No,
But you have winning ways. We hired you because you have winning ways. We saw what you did with Washington and Michael Penix.
yeah. Well, and I think the argument for DeBoer was, entering into the season, there was some statistic or there was some win percentage for him that everywhere he's been, he's won 90% of his games. But the thing is, when you get to coaching in the SEC, that's maybe arguably the best conference maybe in college football.
No, it is the best conference in college
Yeah.
football.
Um, when you get into that league, it's all that kind of just it's not thrown under the table, but it's like you know you better be ready to play every week, otherwise,
You're gonna have 5 stars and 4 stars lining up across you every week.
right? You're gonna have some of the best of the best of the best athletes.
The best players in the world playing the
Right,
SEC.
right. Well, and give credit to Oklahoma, man, because they showed up.
I wish they would have showed up a little bit earlier in the season against Texas, and you know,
Well, and Jackson Arnold's proven himself.
he's not on he's not gonna have the bust label around him anymore.
Uh-uh. No.
He's good.
And good thing for Oklahoma, they're bowl eligible, so they're not going to miss the bowl game.
How about that?
Yeah.
Venerables keeps his job.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he's going to get fired or anything, but
First season in a new conference. I know it's rough, but it's just that the expectation of such a prestigious program like Oklahoma, Alabama,
right.
there comes a expectation, and if you don't meet that expectation,
Mm-hmm.
you just sort of.
Yeah.
I mean, you feel it's just a certain expectation everywhere.
Well, and third down efficiency for both teams, Alabama was 7 for 14, and Oklahoma was 7 for 15. So very close. But
24-3. How could how that Alabama offense get shut down?
I don't know. That's what I try to figure out because They had 234 yards of total offense. They had more passing yards than Oklahoma did. They had 164. Oklahoma completely gashed them on the run. They
I'm
ran
not
for
gonna lie. What is Jackson Arnold on, bro? He rushed for 131.
dude. The entire they and all they rushed for 257 yards. I mean that's I mean what the heck? And I mean Alabama and Oklahoma. I mean Oklahoma didn't completely tear them up in first down percent. I mean Alabama had 13 first downs. Oklahoma had 18. Time of possession wasn't that bad.
No, it was really basically even almost. I mean,
But
Oklahoma 34,
right.
Alabama 25.
But Alabama did have, I think Milrow threw 3 picks.
I think that is more on Milrow than it is on coaching. Because I feel like
What do you
once
mean?
you have that kind of leadership, you're an upperclassman, you're sort of expected to make these plays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a coach trusts you,
Mm-hmm.
there's no doubt that you should be the top playmaker, and a coach should trust you.
Yeah. Well, you know, yeah. But you also have to think about what was the game plan that the coaching staff for Alabama had for Milrow and the offense, because that's essentially what lost them the game. What kind
Yeah,
of, how do
yeah,
they
of
prepare
course.
for Oklahoma? So it's definitely a coaching moment for the entire coaching staff and Coach DeBoer at Alabama.
And moving on to if there wasn't so many upsets this week, you wouldn't be getting all this extra bonus time from us. Florida takes down Ole Miss and knocks Ole Miss out of the playoff as well.
Dude, I was I was extremely shocked to see that. I thought Florida would find a way to hang around, but I didn't expect them to pull that out.
I mean, Billy Napier probably hangs on to his job now.
Oh, for sure. I mean, they're now bowl eligible. Who would have thought that
No one would have
two
thought
months
that.
ago?
And they're probably gonna finish 7-5 because they play Florida State.
And depending on who they play in their bowl game, potentially 8-5, which would be
Yeah.
Napier's best record.
They were projected to finish last in the SEC, I think, when it first came
Yeah,
out.
I think them, Vanderbilt, and Arkansas and Mississippi State, I think, were projected.
Mississippi State's the only one that lived up to hopes.
Yeah.
I'm trashing Mississippi State because
Don't worry, we love Mississippi State.
well, we didn't know they just didn't play well. You know,
Yeah,
the Florida really fought back. They had some resilience this year
they sure did.
in these last couple of games.
Hmm.
They fought hard.
Yeah, and Florida was really good on third downs too. They were 7 for 15, and boy, Ole Miss was only 3 of 14 on third down,
And
which
Jackson Dart threw two
2
interceptions.
picks. Yeah, and they had a fumble.
Jackson Dart turned the ball over 3 times probably.
Uh huh. Yeah.
I mean, again, this is not a good look for Jackson Dart, especially him being a senior.
Yeah, and I was like honestly, I was expecting a lot from Ole Miss this year just because of what they were turning back. They were turning back Dart, um,
A lot
the
of
receiver
offensive weapons.
Jordan Watkins, and then their defense is, to me, their defense is probably as talented as anybody's in the SEC just because of what they had at the defensive line and the secondary.
You know,
But they just didn't get the job done.
I think it comes to a point where Lane Kiffin, in his point in his career, needs to analyze what has gone wrong and what
Right.
do I need to do to fix this.
Well, and this isn't just the first year that Ole Miss has been on the radar, and then they've taken a slump down or taken a step back.
I mean,
This
they're on the radar when they had Matt Corral
yeah,
and
yeah,
Baylor beat him in the Sugar Bowl that year. So sick and Bears. But I mean, they've been blessed with such great quarterback play.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, did you hear that voice crack?
Yeah, yeah.
Bro.
That they've been blessed with such great quarterback play.
Yeah.
It's almost a shame that they haven't made a playoff.
Well, and I would say that Florida loss, I think that knocked them pretty much out.
Yeah, they're pretty much out. Unless some other teams start to lose, which can happen.
It can, but I mean, their next game is against Mississippi State, and even if they win that, that's not going to be convincing to the voters because Mississippi State hasn't done too much this year. You know.
Hey, you know what they did? They kind of lifted a curse from Baylor. They took our quarterback, you know, and now we're playing well this year.
Yeah. Well, how about Ohio State taking care of business against Indiana?
I don't think there's really much to say about this game.
I mean, we said basically that it was going to be close at halftime, and that Indiana would put up a good fight, but second half Ohio State was going to make their adjustments, and Ryan Day was going to be able to find a way to get a solid win.
Yeah, and you had the most spot on prediction probably of the week about Ryan Day and his guys
Yeah.
because it was 14-7 at half,
Thank you.
and
Yeah.
then went from 38-15.
Yeah. Just Indiana. I mean, the first drive that they had, it was looking pretty good. Um, I mean, I was thinking maybe they might put up a good fight all game, but after seeing that Caleb Downs punt return for a touchdown,
That was very demoralizing to watch.
that was oh, I
I mean, the special teams sort of failed there.
yeah. Well, and I think when you watch the game against Indiana and Ohio State, I think the separation of talent level that Ohio State had, I think really showed out in the second half, and they
Yeah,
just they just blew the walls open and they took
of
care of
course, of
business.
course, of course.
I mean, Ohio State had 316 total yards of offense. Indiana only had 151. So that kind of just tells you what kind of day they had offensively, you know. And it again, Indiana is not a bad team. They just didn't.
I think that just shows how great Ohio State is.
Well, it shows how good their roster is, and I think this is I've heard this.
Hmm.
This is probably Ryan Day's maybe the best team he's had at Ohio State yet.
I mean, to be fair, he had C.J. Stroud,
Uh huh.
Chris Olave, Marvin Harrison Jr., and I think he had one more. Garrett Wilson, all on the same team at the same time.
And how in the world did they lose to?
They lost to Georgia because of their kicker.
Yeah.
Always the dang kicker, man.
It's always the kicker who ends it.
Don't
And
send
don't
de-
and
and
don't forget
fans don't send death threats at the kicker, please.
and don't forget a couple of years. Well, I think it was Ryan Day's first year. They had Justin Fields. They had J.K. Dobbins.
Jackson Smith and Jigba too.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah,
Man, they've sent a lot of receivers to the league, a lot of offensive players.
yeah. Well, they've been known to do that though.
I mean, to be fair, they ended up in a national championship, but they sort of got smashed.
By Alabama.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dude, they've had so much great talent. It's almost been,
yeah.
it's hard to believe that they haven't really made anything out of it.
Well, and going back to the Indiana side, we said last week that if they even if they were to lose to Ohio State and finish the season 11-1, I think it's going to be very difficult for them right now to make the Big Ten championship. Um, I just think, I think if Ohio State, I think they're, we'll share our prediction for that Ohio State Michigan game, because I mean, who would not do that game? Predicting that.
It's called the game.
Yeah, exactly. It's called a game for a reason. Um, but if Ohio State's able to take care of business, I don't think Indiana has a chance of getting to the Big Ten championship. And you also have to think about Penn State's situation too. And then I don't know. I think it kind of, I wouldn't say knocked them out of the playoff at all, but I think that they're going to need maybe needs a little bit of help.
And I saw some graphic by ESPN today. They said they still got a 97% chance of making the playoff.
I'm just saying in totality, like you still have teams like Penn State who lost to Ohio State at home, which that's going to look bad on on their resume.
And maybe Penn State will get another crack at it.
Maybe we'll see, and it all
Oregon,
depends
it
on.
looks like Oregon's going to be the sole team. They've clinched a spot, I think, already in the Big Ten championship.
Hmm. Yeah, well, and you never know what happens in those rivalry games. I mean, Ohio State's been favored in each of the past 3 years, and they've lost.
Michigan's figured out ways to win.
Uh-huh. Uh Of course,
But
they're all under
obviously
Jim Harbaugh, but
their great coach isn't there anymore.
uh, nope.
He went off to the NFL.
Yeah. You good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully I'm good by Thanksgiving. That's what I'm hoping.
Yep.
But it's just, I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
And then there's A&M and Auburn.
See, I'm still trying to get that.
The sting of defeat.
No, it's the congestion. It gave me some congestion. Yeah. Got me a little bit sick, you know.
I got you. I'm contagious from the other side of the screen or something.
You know what? Let's look at the stats. Okay. So, okay. The stats aren't okay. The stats aren't bad. Okay, let's just take into consideration for this. A&M was down 21-0 on the road, which it was just a horrible start. I don't even know what we were doing. We didn't look like a team that wanted to come play. No offense, but we looked awful. But the way we were able to come back, tie it, make it 21-21 was, to me, really just, it showed the leadership that this team has and that they just don't quit. Total yards, A&M had 464, Auburn had 469, so not a huge gap. Auburn had 301 passing yards, A&M had 297, pretty dang close. Rushing yards, Auburn only had 1 yard advantage, 168 to 167. A&M had more first downs than Auburn, and A&M had more time possession than Auburn did, which kind of surprises me a little bit.
Yeah.
But, it was a missed opportunity by A&M. Give credit to Auburn. They came out. They put 21 up on the Aggies to start, and then A&M mounted a comeback there. But they had chances to win the game. They had multiple chances to end the game. They just didn't.
Yeah.
So, and then we obviously know what challenge they're going to have this week at home, which we'll talk about on the next podcast. But
I'm gonna be able to talk about it on Thanksgiving, probably near Thanksgiving.
yeah, dude, that's gonna be a fun podcast talking about some of those rivalry games,
especially with all the Aggies in the house. I'm in hostile territory.
Nah.
You know, 90% of our family is like our side. My mom's side of the family is this side of the family is Aggies. You know, I'm the we were like the sole Baylor Bears, the last line of defense.
Well, what about cousin Bethany and cousin Landry? They're Baylor fans.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
So you're not the
Cousin Beth,
last resort.
Aunt Bethany went to Baylor.
Yeah,
Bubba did not, but no,
yeah. So you're not the last resort.
not the last resort. But we're pretty close to it.
Cousin
Um,
Carol.
oh
Oh,
shit.
well, I just gave it away.
Oh, you know, she doesn't. They don't. A lot of people already know who she is in my life, so she's well known.
Yeah, but no, that'll be an
Grandma's
interesting.
well known,
Yep.
but that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, you know, A&M still has a really solid shot.
Well, Georgia clinched the SEC championship, and um, the A&M and Texas game is gonna be a game on whoever wins that game is going to the SEC championship.
And I will be, you know, I will be proudly rooting for the maroon.
I just want to say this for a second. I just want to say this. Understand what just understand this about A&M because I don't think a whole lot of people know about this. A&M was picked ninth, I believe, to finish in the SEC. They were picked to finish ninth overall in the SEC. That just shows you how good of a job Mike Elko has done in his first year. I mean, that's not an easy thing. I mean,
Mm-mm.
after A&M got rid of Jimbo Fisher, which was one of the biggest headlines of in the country in college football, to then hire Mike Elko, to then try and assemble a roster to try and get A&M competitive again and win those big games. I mean, he's done a really good job in his first year.
I would not hang your head
Mm-mm,
at all.
no, but it would be nice to end the regular season with an upset win over TU.
You know, I'd love just just take care of business against Texas. You know, I'm tired of all these bandwagon Texas fans yapping on social media.
Yeah.
I'm
Well, and
ready.
again,
I'm
we'll talk
ready.
about it next, but
You know, let's see if your Aggies are all about business come Saturday.
well, and I believe it's that because that game's gonna have everybody's attention. It's gonna be 7:30,
Oh,
all
you're gonna
that.
be there. You know,
Yeah.
I'll
Well,
obviously be there. I'll be around, but
and we'll be talking it. We'll be talking about all these games on the next podcast episode, so we're not trying to spoil anything. But
mm-hmm.
college, what's hilarious? College Game Day announced that they're going to the A&M for that game, right as A&M was losing like 21-0 to Auburn.
And, you know, that's
So
it just happens. It's business, but I
yeah,
think this is probably gonna set a record for one of our longest episodes.
yeah,
Without further ado, wish y'all all good night, and you know, if you're watching this in the morning, good morning.
yep,
I hope you have a wonderful day,
yep.
and
Hey, this is a great day to start your day.
why would you not want to start your day with staring at my pretty face?
Yeah. Hi.
Bye, guys.
All right. We'll see you all. We'll see y'all. I guess. We'll be together next
You know,
time.
you might see us in person, which is going to be a rare. It's been a rare thing.
And
You
don't
know,
forget, we might have some special guests on. Maybe
might
potentially.
be an extra long episode next week.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna be a Thanksgiving special.
You know, maybe I'll come like early Thanksgiving morning, or maybe even Wednesday, and come record an episode, or you know,
Do something.
yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, that's it for this round, and we'll see y'all next time.
Mm-hmm.
All right. See you later. That was good.
Yeah, that's good. Good, very good. You know, if you're, I think you're at the cabin Wednesday, aren't you? You're gonna be at the cabin Wednesday.